it's a good challenge, and we're up to it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited to see, and I would love to see myself in a little bit more of Karl Kani as well. So we want to make sure we get that. I can go to the website. I can find. I can make that work. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Check-In. I'm your host, NeAndre Broussard, founder and CEO of Black Menswear, and I'm here checking in with an icon. Ain't no other way I can classify him. We have the Godfather of Streetwear himself, a global icon in this industry, Mr. Karl Kani. Brother, thank you for joining us on The Check-In.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank you.
You everywhere. You've been everywhere for the last 30 years.
36 years.
36 years. We can round up. We can say they 40.
There you go.
Man, so I just appreciate your greatness here on our couch. And we're going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
I open up the episodes the same way so it can help me tap into the mind of who my guest is. So I want to ask you a question. Like, what is one quote or one statement or mantra or motto, something that you live by, something that you picked up a while ago that just stays with you even through now?
Yeah, so something that always stuck with me is a quote, which is something that I say to myself all the time. It's like, you can never get to where you're going if you don't know where you want to be. And you know, the science behind that is that if you wake up every day without a plan or a destiny, it's hard to achieve goals if you don't have a destiny what you want.
Yeah.
So that was our platform from day one, is being able to provide that and to think along those lines on a daily basis.
Yeah. All right. So going back to day one, right? In the culture that we are part of, you were like the first to put your name out there, right? Like, now, this is my brand. This is my name. Yeah. Why was it important for you to establish a brand as Karl Kani and not something else?
Yeah, because, you know, me and all my friends used to spend all our money buying clothing when we were growing up, right? So we used to go to Delancey Street, go to A&S, Macy's, and spend all our money. We broke, but we had some fresh clothes on. And I was thinking about the designers that we were wearing back then, you know, like Tommy Hilfiger, Jabot, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Shams the Baron, and I feel like I want to be like them. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to have my own brand with my name on it and open up the doors for our own people. So it was no other choice in my mind really at that point that I'm going to brand myself and do this.
What about fashion drew you in? Like, because we could be sitting here talking to you. You could be Dr. Kani, right?
Yeah.
What about fashion was like, nah, that's my lane. That's my space.
It just happened. Like, okay, my family, we came from Costa Rica and Panama when I was a year old, and we moved to Flatbush, Brooklyn, right? So we were living in East Flatbush and in a middle-class neighborhood, and in the winters out there, they have really bad winters, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to shovel the snows in our front yard. Mm-hmm. So one day I'm out there shoveling snow, and a neighbor asked me, can I do her yard? And my cousin, we started to set up a business. We started going around the neighborhood shoveling snow, only for one reason. We wanted a brand new pair of Adidas from the flea market, which our parents could not afford to get it to us at the time. Right. So by us being able to work at such a young age and actually purchase something, and the attention that we got from everybody, how cool we were when we wore these sneakers, it's like that attention. I love that feeling. So fashion was the type of thing that always kind of kept me inspired and wanted me to go out there and work just to get fashion.
Yeah. All right. Well, then you think about, you know, the early 90s, launching the brand. That was a time, like, you were making a statement, truthfully, in the industry. Like, what were some of those early challenges that you faced opening this new lane of streetwear, of urban wear, of in a space where it was like people weren't used to the type of trend or fashion that you brought to the table?
Absolutely. So basically, you know, I'll take you back to how I even got started making clothing. So my dad from Panama used to get his clothes made by a tailor. Mm-hmm. He used to go to Delancey Street, buy his fabrics, and bring it back to Flatbush to a Haitian tailor named Jack and make his clothes. So I used to kind of watch the process of him making his own clothing. So when my mom and my dad got divorced when I was in the 4th grade, we ended up moving to East New York in the projects. And the first day we moved there, you know, I'm thinking we about to go outside and play with the kids in the projects. There's a lot of buildings. I was really excited. These dudes was lining me up like, yo, man, what kind of sneakers you got on, man? What kind of shoes you got on? What kind of shirt you got on? They was like, man, that shirt is whack, man. Don't be coming around here in no whack clothes like that. I was like, man.
Dang, hold on.
I just want to go play, right? Yeah. I was like 11, 12 years old, so like I went home crying to my mom. I was like, Mom, I need some money to buy some clothes. These kids are making fun of my clothes. They said you bought it from the grocery store. I said, I need some clothes. And I need some new sneakers too. So my mother's fishing for the island. She don't play that. She said, let me see the bottom of your sneakers. So she said, you ain't got no hole in it. You good.
You don't need no new
you
sneakers,
good.
yeah.
And she said, go get yourself a job. She said, go get yourself a job, right? That's what she said to me. So I sat in the lobby of my building because I refused to go back out there to the mall again to get dissed, right? I sat in the lobby of my building just playing with myself with a ball against the wall, bouncing the ball against the wall. So I saw this kid with a shopping cart with some newspapers in it, going by my building, a white kid. So I ran out there and said, what are you doing? He says, what do you mean? I'm working. I said, you got a job? Because he's like my age, right? I says, yeah. He says, you get paid for this? He says, yeah. He says, why? Do you want a job? Because they're looking for a new newspaper boy. I said, man, I'll do anything. He says, one thing though, you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to deliver newspapers. You have to deliver it before people go to work. I said, man, I'll do anything. So since 13 years old, I was getting up at 5:30 in the morning delivering newspapers only for one reason, to get money, to get clothes. You feel me?
Yeah.
So like, once I was able to save enough to get my first outfit, I bought a Campus Latigra, a white short set, and a polo shirt. When I wore it around the way, they was like, shorty got the white on whites. Now I'm cool and I'm accepted. I was like, damn, that's all you gotta do is wear some cool clothes to be accepted. So when I kept telling you, this fashion thing kept following me around, and now I'm making my own money now. So I started wearing my own clothing. So our jump starts now, go back to my father's tailor. So when I was around 14, 15, a lot of my friends were breakdancing, hip hop was coming out. So dudes wanted clothing bigger. We wanted more baggier clothing. There was no baggy clothes in the stores.
Yeah.
All those designers that I mentioned to you, they weren't making baggy clothing. So I thought about my dad's tailor. I says, man, if I make an outfit with my dad's tailor, first of all, none of these guys will have it. I'll be fresh, and I'll be able to have something that's really new. So I bought 5 yards of linen, and I asked the tailor, I said, hey, is there any way you can make my pants where the legs are bigger but the waist could fit me? Because back then what we were doing, we were buying like Levi's in size 40 just to get the bag, and the waist wouldn't fit us, right?
Right.
So he says, no problem. He took my measurements. Man, when I wore that outfit around the way, everybody's like, man, that's so cool. Where'd you get it from? So I'm not about to tell him. I said, if you want one, I'll make you one. So that's really how it started. I started making clothes for my friends in the projects, and that's really how streetwear started right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just progress it, and I know we gonna get there, but like you fast forward now, I mean, the style is still the same.
Yeah, it came back around. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, that's but out of need, out of necessity. You like, okay, first of all, my love for fashion came because I had to in a time where it's like it had to be accepted.
Yep.
So that was that, and then it became I got something that they need, they want, they desire. Well, shoot, I'm the man to make it. You got to come through me from a business perspective versus you can't go anywhere else and get it. So you built that business out of the need.
Absolutely. Like, I'm not about to tell them where my tailor is and where
Yeah,
the
right,
fabric from.
right.
No, I'll make you one. But I want to tell you a story though, which is really cool. So, how the brand name came up. So back then, I was just making clothing with no name on it. I wasn't thinking about being a fashion designer.
Yeah.
I was just hustling, making some clothes, right? The last thing in my mind was becoming a fashion designer because, again, there was no black person that had a fashion brand that we could say, I want to be like him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was just making custom clothing with no name or no label in it. We were sitting in the park one day, and I was bragging to these girls, telling how I made this outfit for this guy named Joe that was walking by. They didn't believe me, right?
Yeah.
They told him to come over. They said, who made that outfit for you? He said, Carl made it. Why, what's up? She's like, let me see your jacket. So I didn't know where she was going with this, right? He takes off the jacket, shows it, she says, yeah, if Carl made it, how come his name ain't on it then? That's when it hit me. She was trying to be a smart aleck.
Yeah.
She was so right.
Yeah.
Because anybody could have said they made that outfit, right? So I went home that night and I said, okay, I want to be a designer. So I said, okay, Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, Giorgio Armani. Those are the names I know. I said, okay, Carl. And my father changed our name to an American last name when we moved to the United States to Williams. I was like, Carl Williams Jeans.
He said it didn't work.
It just didn't have a ring to it, right?
Yeah.
It didn't sound like, didn't have a ring. So was a question I used to ask myself all the time. Can I be successful?
Wow.
Can I really build a clothing brand? So I didn't want to have, so I wrote Can I on a piece of paper, and I called a couple of my friends and said, hey man, there's a designer called Karl Kani putting out some really fresh stuff. I said, have you guys heard of it? Of course they said no, because it didn't exist, right? I want to see what they thought about the name. I said, what you think about that name? They said, yo, that name's kind of dope, son. Kind of like it, son.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Real New Yorkish.
Yeah, like it, son. I was like, all right, well, that's going to be my name for now. And that's really how it all started.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's dope. I like that. It's even the creative process of getting to that. I mean, that really kind of further defines the brand in itself. So like the script writing of it, is that your signature, or is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. So you give me a pen and a paper. I like to always write on pieces of paper different things on it. So I just kept writing Kani over and over again. And so I did the signature. I did the Karl Kani signature. Then I found a graphic artist when I came to LA to kind of clean it up for me, to put it on, so I could get a camera ready artwork for it. So that's really like, that was my signature, and that was like my destiny from day one.
Yeah. When so this progression through the brand, at what point did you look at your brand and you were like, yo, this is like, I'm doing it? Not obviously. The response from Shorty told you that because it's like, oh, you like that? Oh, I made that. But at what point, from a designer perspective, were you like, yo, this is me?
I think I would say when I saw my clothing on MTV, right? So we ran into Dr. Dre on Melrose back in 1989 or 1990. This is Dr. Dre and Ed Lover. They used to have Yo MTV Raps. And we brought him by the apartment and in Hollywood because we were working out the apartment, and he wore an outfit on MTV. And I think once he wore that outfit, everyone was calling me. They saw the big signature. It's like, I was like, damn, this is something a show we used to watch. Now our brand is actually on there. And we knew at that time what type of marketing we wanted to do, because one thing about back then, your whole target audience was focused at one location. There was a lot of options. Everybody watched MTV. Everybody watched BET. So if you get your clothing on there, you're gonna touch everyone that needs to be touched, one shot. And nowadays it's very difficult to do that, but we was able to do that back then. So grassroots TV marketing was very big for us.
What made you leave the East Coast to come to the West?
Yeah, great question. So we left New York to come here because number one, New York didn't have the denim manufacturers over there out here. Out here had denim manufacturing. We did our research and we saw that Guess and Jabot was sewing their jeans here in California. So when we came to California, we just brought our New York hustle to California. We opened a store on Crenshaw Boulevard. It's 4312 Crenshaw in Leimert Park, right? And we ended up living in the store. We had no money, right? We was living in the store. But what happened was once we got there, we had no sewing machines at the time, and we didn't really know how to get the jeans made. But we knew where the Guest factory was, right? So me and my man AZ, we got a little hoopty car. We sat in front of Guest's factory every day, all day, until we found a worker. We was out there, trabajo máquina, mucho dinero, and my mother speaks fluent Spanish. I tried to get them on the phone. My mom's talked to them. We wanted to know where does Guest get their denim from and where they getting it washed at. That's all we wanted to know. So finally, we was out there for like 5 days. Finally, on a Friday, around 4 o'clock, when they was all getting off, a dude came to us. He says, oh, wait a minute. A Spanish dude. He says, oh, so you guys have a sewing machine? You want to pay me more money? He said, oh, you speak English? We was like, oh, shit. We said, So we found a guy named Jose. He speaks English. And we told him what was going on. We said, yo, man, look, we're from New York. We're just trying to get some jeans made. Luckily, this guy, his wife was a pattern maker, and he had a sewing machine set up at his house. So they was like our linkage right there. We hooked up with him, and basically that's how we made our first jeans, was through this guy. And we was just hustling from there.
Oh, man. It's a right time, right moment. But that's also the work, though. Like, all right, we know it's coming out of here. We need to figure out how we get this plug that's in here, and taking that time and being out front, just asking until you find the right
we
link
wasn't
on
taking no for an answer. It's like, no, it's going to happen. That was his attitude. We ain't come out here to fail. So we going to come out here to get this W.
Now, for you, like, when you think about the, being a Black-owned business, like, how important, especially now, because, like you said, even at that point, there was no Black-owned designers like that. You had nobody to look up to, because it was like, ain't nobody doing it but me. But then as you progress, you started hearing other, like, oh, man, I want to be like Karl Kani. Like, how did that make you feel? From a sense of like, oh man, culturally, like not in a boasting way, but like I'm him. You know what I mean? Like how did that make you feel?
It motivated us, like because we figured like we started this, we can't lose our traction. So anytime we found out like there's more brands doing similar looks, it made us work that much more harder to sustain where we were and to make sure everyone knows we are the originators of streetwear fashion. And like it really just energized us because we knew what we started and we knew where we were from and we knew what we had to do, and we knew it was very important that our company stay successful because we could inspire so many other companies out there that want to be like us. I tell people a lot of times, with our people. It takes one of us. It takes someone who looks like you that you can relate to achieve success on a certain level to make you feel like if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
And that's what the Kani brand is really inspired because, we used to go to the Magic Show in Vegas, which is the biggest clothing convention.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just my company and Cross Colors, the only two black companies there. We were next to Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren. But we had people lined up around the corner to get in our small booth, and it was pissing those other brands off because there was no baggy. We changed the specs of young men's fashion.
Yeah.
The look and fit that we had didn't exist. So it was something new and revolutionized streetwear. And more important, it was through the power of hip hop too. Hip hop artists was just so influential. We had every single top artist wearing our clothing. You know what I'm saying? So like that really propelled it to another level.
Yeah. Was that also the strategic placement of being in being in LA at the time, where it's like, okay, we can get access to a lot of the hip hop artists.
Well, a lot of artists are still a lot of artists was out in New York as well too back then, like Pete Rock, CL Smooth, Biggie, Nas, things like that. In LA, we hooked up with Snoop, Dr. Dre. As a matter of fact, the first artist we met in LA, the first night we got here was Ice-T. And he took a picture with us that day. We was like, okay, we like LA. LA vibe. LA vibe. But we got so much love from the LA artists still out here wearing our clothes and stuff like that. Because, like back then, no designers catered to hip hop artists.
Right.
To artists, everyone thought hip hop was just a fad. It wouldn't last. Right. And a lot of designers didn't really even want hip hop artists in their clothing.
Wearing their stuff.
They felt like it was going to deter their original customers they had. So, but we embraced that culture. Because that's who we were. That's who we are. So it hasn't been done before. So we embrace what we know.
Yeah. What made you do the denim? Was it just because at that point, like, denim was rising? Obviously, you talked about the Guess brand, and that was just like, oh no, I'm gonna take over that space and bring to the denim world.
Yeah, because we kind of was seeing what we were wearing. You know what I'm saying? And we were wearing like Jabot and stuff like that, and we just felt like the fits wasn't what we wanted, but we wanted denim. And the other important thing was, they weren't giving us sets. We wanted the two-piece hookups, right? We wanted top and bottom to match shoes. You know how we were, right? So we gave the people what they wanted, the two-piece hookups with the right fit. It was game on.
Yeah. Now, like say, even now we still style it, top and bottoms.
You know what I'm saying?
When you think about like your career and you think about like the fashion world is very cyclical. But even within those cycles, I'm sure you've seen times where people have like jocked your style, copied your, stolen, honestly, bit off your style, stolen things from you. Like, how difficult is that part of the industry to be able to look at something and be like, all right, how are we gonna handle this? Mm-hmm. Because I know that that's one of the things that happens all the time. People see something like, well, I can do that too. It's like, no. Be your own originality,
right? But
you being a pioneer, like I'm sure you saw that a lot. Like how you deal with stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean it used to happen so much, man. We just got to the point where we realized that charge it to the game and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Because that's only a distraction. Because there's nothing you really could do about that. Now, what the biggest problem we did have was when we were getting knockoff when the Chinese companies were making inferior Karl Kani products, putting my logo on it. That's one thing, another company copying your style with their name on it. Yeah. It's another thing when they're bootlegging your stuff. And we had a major, big bootlegging problem for our brand. They were bootlegging our brand so bad that retailers are coming to us saying, yo, we can't sell the real stuff anymore. They're selling it down the block in the gas station and the flea market for $5, $10. So that was a really, really important part of my career right there. We had to figure out what to do, right? And I was very concerned. So at that point, we had the Kani embroidered signature on a lot of our products, right? So I was thinking, what can I do to throw these bootleggers off my back? And one day we were in the airport, and I saw this guy, he had a bag, and he had a metal plate on his bag, on a leather bag. I was like, metal plate, leather, that fits. So we came up with a leather plate with a metal patch and put that on the garments now. Yeah. So that made people know this is the authentic Karl Kani piece right here. And that metal plate just took a whole life of its own right there. You know what I'm saying? So but that came out of, we had to find a way to separate ourselves from the bootleggers. So, so like I said, once you have that attitude, like you ain't gonna fail, you're gonna find a way.
Yeah. No, that's dope. It's crazy for me to hear how that, that staple piece came about. When you think about the current, status or not status, but the current position of fashion, what brings you joy now seeing, styles get replayed, and that, as you know, it really, as you look through 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, now that we're in the 90s, now that we're in the 2020s, I mean, you're seeing people bite off of all the eras now. Like, what gives you joy about seeing people bringing back things from aspects that you created from a style perspective?
So, two things. So first, it used to bother me sometimes when I seen like companies not from the culture just replicating our styles and stuff like that, and those brands becoming popular off of a fit, and it's a brand who never really supported our culture or anything like that, but they took our fits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that really bothered me. But what makes me feel good though about the whole situation is when we're able to connect with the new young generation. You know, like the NLE Choppers and the Gorillaz and all these new artists who's wearing Karl Kani now, and they kind of us because they want that fit now. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of softens the one a little bit, and it makes us feel really good. Like to think 35 years later, a whole new young generation is wearing something that's been around for so long ago, and it makes us feel good because we know that there's a bright sun for us in the future with the brand, because connecting with the youth is the key, and that's really important that we continue to do that.
Yeah. What's some as you connected then? What you got coming out? I know it's good.
Well, our biggest thing we have coming out, we have my book coming out next year on my birthday. Next year, we have a book deal with Simon & Schuster. Been working on the book for the last 3 years. Okay. Scott Paulson Bryant, the editor of Vibe magazine, he wrote the book along with myself. We took like 2 years working on it, and I feel like it's going to be a masterpiece. It tells the story well, and it shows you what it takes to build something from the ground up. It shows you what an immigrant coming to this country with straight focus and determination can do without excuses, and no financial background, no college, anything like that, just straight hustle, and bring that straight hustle right into the business world, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. I can't wait to read that. Audiobook too, I like to listen.
Yes,
I want to hear your voice in it.
Yeah.
Any collections coming out as well? Any collaborations or?
Well, we just dropped a new collection. East Flatbush collection was dropped on karlkani.com 2 weeks ago. And the way our business is set up, we have licensings throughout the world. We have 10 stores, 10 flagship stores in Japan, which is a whole separate collection there. And that collection is more for guys in his 20s, 30s. We have a golf collection there as well. We do suits. And our biggest business in Europe, we're in 25 foreign countries. Our partners in Europe is a $7.4 billion company called Snipes. They're the biggest streetwear retailer in Europe. We've been partners with them since 1999 doing that. So we've been able to really build a brand and put it out there the way we want, and not put too much product out there, because we're able to control what we put out there. So we've been able to understand what it takes to go from decade to decade building a brand.
Yeah. Man, for any young designers out there that are trying to find their way, what kind of advice can you give them?
I'll say this: like, if you're gonna get into fashion, if you're just doing it for the money and that's on your only the only thing you're looking for to do, it's probably not for you, because it's gonna be a lot of downfalls. Every day is not pretty. Every day is not gonna be your best day. You know what I'm trying to say? And what I realized in this business, you got to think of it more as a marathon and not a sprint. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna get the hiccups. Now, can you get these hiccups and wake up tomorrow morning that much more energized to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? Some may not. But if you know you're one of those that's willing to do it, I would say I'll encourage you to go out there and do it, because it's a great business to be in. But it's something that gives you self-satisfaction to see somebody out there wearing your brand, but it's got to be something you got to be dedicated to 24/7.
Yeah. No, I've heard that same thing from a few designers. They're like, man, if you don't wake up, go to bed thinking about designing and fashion, this ain't for you.
Nah.
Cause if you just think about the money, then you might as well go get a job. Don't try to do this.
Well, it's difficult to be profitable at the beginning. I mean, building your brand is, your name is in your brand is the greatest asset you could ever own, and building that and protecting that is everything. So, I mean, I feel like if you're able to withstand the downside of it, it could be something you might want to get into.
Yeah. What's been let me see. You said the first time you saw it on MTV, it was like, oh, that's cool. For you, like, what's been one of those moments where you were just like, I can't believe they wearing my stuff?
Man, it's been a couple of different ones. I would say, man, when the Tupac campaign that we did with Tupac, and Tupac was one of the main reasons why our brand sustained the way it has been internationally, because they worship Tupac like a god. And anytime they see pictures of Tupac on YouTube or on the internet, they see him wearing Karl Kani, and there wasn't even any paid endorsement ad. You know what I'm saying? It was just Tupac just loved rocking the gear. This is real. As a black man, he told me, "I want to blow your brand up." You know what I'm saying? Even when we tried to offer Tupac free clothing, he wanted to pay for it. That's the type of person that he was. So I feel like him rocking the clothing, and just certain things he's done was very interesting. Like, I don't know, when Tupac got shot in New York at the Quad Studio, so he did his first interview for Vibe magazine when he got out the hospital, and one of the questions was, how did you feel when you got shot? And his answer was very interesting. He says, "I didn't know I was shot, but I could feel the heat of the bullet pierce through my Karl Kani drawers." That was such a random, but everyone picked up on that. It was so authentic, but he's just saying what happened. It was just real like that, so Tupac was real, and he used to rock it, and his whole crew. Oh, it's funny, when we did the campaign with him, I met him at the Hotel Nico on La Cienega, right? And because I really wanted to meet him, and back then it was hard to get in touch with people. There was no cell phones, so I had to call the record company, hook up with him. So he said he's gonna be at the Hotel Nico at the time. So I went there to meet him. Knocks on his door. He told me, "Come in." It was me and my man AZ. It's Tupac. He's at the computer, like typing a script to a movie, and he's smoking blunt after blunt. But he's having a very intelligent conversation with us about hip hop, culture, Black Panthers. So I went there to ask him to do a campaign for me. I was waiting for the right moment to ask him, right? So I remember room service knocked on the door, I was like, okay, here's my chance. I'm gonna ask him now. I said, "Yo, Pop, like, how much did you charge me to do an ad for Kani?" And he got really quiet. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I shouldn't have asked him. Fuck that, right? He's like, "Yo, I don't charge my people for nothing." He says, "You black, I don't charge you for nothing." And I says, "That's it?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, no, I want one thing." I was like, "Oh, here we go." He said, "I want one thing." He says, "Yo," he says, "Can you put Thug Life in some of the ads with me?" He wanted his crew to be in some of the photos of him. I says, "Hell yeah,
that's easy."
And then after that, he turned to a whole different Pac. Then he's like that just broke the ice. Almost like he was waiting to see what was up, right? Then he started coming up with all these ideas. He visually directed the photo shoot right then and there. He said exactly what he wanted. He says, "Yo, I want to do your shoot. I want to be in Harlem. I want to be on top of a basketball hoop, rocking my Kani shit. That's what I want." And 2 weeks later, went to New York, did it, and bam, that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, just like that.
That's dope. And just even to be able to have those kind of moments, the connection that you have with people. You know what I mean? Like that's really important. And I know it's, especially from a fashion, and it's like relationships are important, right? Like you gotta have real relationships. Talk about why relationships equal longevity in the fashion industry.
Relationships are everything, man. Like, I remember there's two other artists that we really wanted to get, but they both was on death row, so dealing with them was a little difficult at the time. Not the artist, but just the whole
business.
The whole business of it. So we wanted Dr. Dre and Snoop, and we had a relationship with them. It just couldn't happen at the time. So when Snoop left Death Row to go to No Limit, he called me immediately, and we was able to get the Snoop campaign done right then and there, right?
Yeah.
And when Dre left Death Row, same situation again, hooked up. And me and him we did the whole campaign with Dre. I mean, these dudes, man, it was so much love and so much, that's what you call true black love right there. You know what I'm saying? Because they had the opportunity to rock any brand they wanted to rock. They said, "Yo, I'm gonna rock this black man's clothing brand right here." You know what I'm saying? 'Cause this is what's real. This is who we are. This is the culture right here. So those type of things, like, things you can never, you always have to like hold those things very close to you, because those things mean a lot. Each one of those moments meant a lot, from them to Nas, to Pete Rock, CL Smooth, to Aaliyah wearing my clothing on her album cover, which was huge. And she wore it in 1 in a Million. You know what I'm saying? It's like those type of moments, now that I look back at it, how pivotal and how important each one of those moments are today to keep the brand where it is.
You think nowadays artists from a culture perspective don't understand that, or there are still a lot, it's just that we don't necessarily hear about? Because a lot of times, now everybody's like, "Oh, I want to wear this designer and this designer," and like me, I'm happy. I got on all black designer right now. Like everything I got on right now is black designer. But I hear a lot about, like, a lot of my friends that are in the design space and doing really good things. It's like, man, try to get myself with so and so, and they didn't, they ain't really rock with me. Now I also got one of my homies, who he was like, well, Dre, the only reason why they all rocking my stuff is because the quality of the product is extremely high, and so they got the money to go buy A, B, C, and D. So they're not gonna buy my stuff if my stuff isn't the same quality as that. He's like, that's the biggest thing for me to know how much I need to charge for my products, but I also had to come with the quality that warranted that cost.
Absolutely.
When you think about like the Black culture now, the connections that we have with Black designers, do you think it's as strong as it was, or do you think media tells us one thing, but it's still fairly strong?
I do. I think the artists out there are giving a lot of support. We've gotten support from a lot of the hip hop artists and musicians and stuff like that. I feel like you said, the quality is really what's at. Now, just because you're a Black designer, you can't feel they should wear your clothing if your quality is not up to par to what they can afford to buy, right? So you got to come at them a different way. And I'll give any designer a big tip as to how I think it's best to deal with artists. To deal with artists, you should go through their stylist, not directly to the artist.
Yeah.
You know, artists, they got a lot going on. They're all over the place. They got business to deal with. They hire stylists to dress them. The stylist's only focus is to find new, fresh stuff to present to this artist. So the key is to connect with the stylist, let the stylist get the close to the artist. Then it has value. And keep in mind, what is the stylist's job? Dress the artist. What is the stylist looking for? New product. So your job is to get to those stylists, come hook or crook, find a way, figure it out. If you want it, figure it out. Get to them, and you can.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. The stylist, y'all.
That's
find,
it.
Find the stylist.
That's right.
Find
Get
the
the stylist, no matter
yeah.
any means necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
How important is it for you, like when we think about the digital era that we in, right? And you just, I mean, I'm gonna say this, and it might be asinine for me to say this because you might be like, nah, I deal with that too. Like, but you just had such a legendary brand that, you know, maybe my assumption that you didn't really have to deal with going from into the digital space. It just kind of happened for you. But like, how did you navigate? Because you go through decades, bro. Like decades, things change, times change, how people consume information changes. But you've been able to stay still relevant. And you talked about the overseas flagships. I'm like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Just knowing that, understanding that. Like, how were you able to maintain the brand and the relevance as we entered into this digital space?
The digital space is way different for us, man. Because, you know, keep in mind, you know, our game used to be like, you advertise in Vibe, Source, XXL. You know, you do some TV commercial on BET, MTV, and you're good. Now, none of those things don't mean anything right now. You know what I'm saying? No one watches magazines. TV is not that important anymore. It's all about the digital space. So we have to get young. You know, you have to listen to the youth. We have to get our Instagram going. We have to figure out how this game, maneuvering through the game. And I think just hanging out with kids who are into that mindset, bringing them aboard into your company, I think was really the key. So, you know, I had my kids too. They were all into it, so I was learning from them. You know, so turn around, I'm learning from them. How does this game work? How do you do this? And, and realizing how important it is, because that's what it's all about right now, is those phones and sending a message through these people on each and every day on a basis. So yeah, that was a challenge for us for sure.
Are you still like pretty hands-on with the creative process of the brand today, or have you kind of take a seat back and just kind of let others navigate and continue to run?
Nah, I'm all in.
Yeah,
I'm all in, because you know what else you gonna do? Like it's like I like to do what I do. Like, you know, I'm not a party animal. You know, I like to travel, but I like to work. You know what I'm saying? I like to keep things fresh. You know what I mean? Because like, this is what I built for. You know, I don't want to lose. You know what I'm saying? So like, I know, like, if I don't give it the attention and something doesn't go right, who I'm gonna blame? I can't blame anybody but myself. I gotta put the time in.
Yeah. What's one of your proudest moments with the brand? Right, we talked about, you know, seeing it on people, and maybe that's not necessarily proud, like, oh yeah, okay, I'm here. But like, what's for you like one of the proudest moments you've had of Karl Kani?
I think we had several. I think because it really touched my mom. We did a fashion show at the White House. It was for Afro-Latino Month, and it was when Bill Clinton was in office. And they allowed us to do a fashion show in the White House during that time period right there. And that was pretty crazy. I mean, you had to send in, you had to get security clearance. All the models had to get security clearance. I had a cousin of mine. He had a felony. He didn't tell me. He couldn't get in.
At the gate, like, no, bro, you can't get in here.
It's like the spot, this ain't the show for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that moment was so surreal to think that you come from Brooklyn and you now having your people doing a fashion show inside the White House. My mom's cried at that one, so I thought that was really cool. Good event right
that's
there.
dope, man.
That one, I think, like doing our first runway show on 7th on 6th in Manhattan. I think that was really big for us also. Just seeing the crowd and entering into the dome of where all the big boys is at. You know what I'm saying, and showing that we're going to sustain this, we're going to do this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I feel like that was really big for us also.
Yeah. Now, it's funny you talk about security clearance. I got to go to the White House last year. My boy, Trill Thomas, he does Black Excellence brunches. And we did one at the White House. And that was one of those moments where it's like, just how surreal it is. It's like, one, you look about 100 years and we couldn't even enter the house.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And now, like, we're given the space to do great things. But yeah, that was one of those ones I'm like, whew. They ask you all the questions in preparation to go.
That's right.
It's like, no, I'm good. I'm clear on all that. I'm clear on all these. But someone's like, nah, we ain't gonna be able to make that trip, you know? Right. All right, now, like, you took the fashion game, you put your foot in it. So you've often been referred to as, like, the father of urban streetwear. What does it mean to you? Yes, sir. Oh, you said, okay. I got you. All right. So as you built this brand, you built your legacy, you became the godfather of urban streetwear. What does it mean to, like, carry that title? And when you think about it, like, when you become the godfather, there's a responsibility that comes with that as well. Yeah. So, like, what does that mean for you to carry that mantle?
You know, when we first started doing clothing, that was never really my thought, to knowing I was going to be the originator or the godfather of streetwear. We just trying to make clothing and, you know, feed our families and do what we got to do. And I feel like to have that title means a lot to me, and that's why I still work hard. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to be one of those companies that's here today and gone tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, my philosophy, you could will things into existence if this is what you want. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like for us, there's been plenty of times when things are looking very, very dark and meek for us, but that will and that power of every day staying laser focused on what you want to do. Even if we went to a nightclub, because we used to go to clubs to promote the clothing, and come in 2, 3 o'clock, come 7:30, 8 o'clock, we back on the same grind again. You know what I'm trying to say? So I feel that title and that feeling, and I'm very competitive too. So I know a lot of the brands that came out in the 90s, a lot of urban brands, they're not here anymore. Yeah. Most of the brands are not here. And I know why. Because it's always easy to start. You could always start. Yeah. And maintaining is not easy. That's true. That's when the real ones come in. If you're not willing to die for this, then you're probably going to quit. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's how it is. So, yeah, so those things and that feeling for me is one of the reasons why having the title, being the godfather of urban fashion, is everything to me, and we respect that for sure.
No, mad respect. Well, shoot then, since you're the godfather, this question from me to you is actually going to be pretty dope in my mind. All right, so if you had to put a Mount Rushmore of fashionable individuals in the music industry, right, within your ethos, like, who would be the top 4 most fashionable brothers in music?
That's out now, or just
Now you got go through it all, right? Okay. From start to finish. And maybe somebody now might be up there, but they might not be.
I'll say Tupac, because of his versatility. Tupac could give you street, and Tupac throw on a suit, Tupac throw on some Versace, and everything he did was cool, no matter what, right? I'll say Tupac. I'll say Future. I feel is a very fashionable person to me. I'll say Travis Scott to a certain extent. I feel like he be putting out stuff. He's into that brown. He liked to wear a lot of browns. He killed the brown thing. I feel he did a great job doing that. Who else would I say that's pretty dope? In terms of guys, I think like those are the top guys right there that I would say that I think push the pavement and does a great job in terms of streetwear and things like that.
Yeah. All right, so we got Tupac, we got Travis, straight out of H-Town, we got Future, Mr. Atlanta himself.
There you go.
I like it. I respect it. I ain't got nothing but I can't do nothing but respect it. Man, okay, that's a nice little mountain right there.
That's right.
For you now, like, you know, in the space that the brand is at now, what kind of, as somebody who's done great stuff in the industry. Like how do you set goals? Like now, like what are some milestones that you now like, oh, I want to hit this and hit that when you've done great stuff thus far?
We've done, and I feel like in business, you take hits, you take losses, you go up. It's like poker, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down.
Yeah.
Like right now, our main goal right now is dominating back in the USA market again. Because our brand is like, I would say, 80% more popular international than it's here in the United States. We have to do a better job of reconnecting our brand here in the United States and put more efforts here in the United States, which we're doing now.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge for us, you know what I'm saying? But it's a good challenge. It's a challenge that we're ready for this challenge, and we want to do that. We have to do a better job connecting with the youth here, because their mentality is totally different now. They're different. You can't push anything on them. They want to discover things, They want a story behind a brand, I mean? The game is different, so we have to find a way to tell our story in a cool way that's going to be perceived well by this new generation, and we're on our way to do it now. But
but my brother, man, I appreciate you giving us your time today. This season we talking about being built different, and just like even the grassroots approach to growing the brand, being in the right place at the right time, asking the right questions, not taking no for an answer, you know what I mean, and then developing and cultivating the product, making. When obstacles came, when you saw the knockoffs, you ain't just like, man, I can't do this no more. You figured it out.
That's right.
I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna put a plate on it. So now you know what's real and what's not. And just all of those things, brother, the time that you've given us and the brain dump that you've given, man, that's priceless. I hope y'all were watching. I hope y'all were listening to my brother Karl that came on here today and really just let us know, like, with consistency, with work, with an understanding, and with a passion and desire, you too can achieve your goals to go from, Brooklyn to the White House.
There you go.
That can be achieved, my brother. So we finished the episode the same way we always talk about, Dear Black Man. So I'm going to have you look at that camera. You're going to repeat after me. And you're going to make this statement, Dear Black Man. Now, before you do that, you guys that are watching, you sat with us here through this amazing episode. Now, you got to do 3 things for us. You got to subscribe to the channel so that way more people like you can find out about the work that we're doing here at Black Menswear. You also have to subscribe. The first thing was subscribe. The second thing you got to do is like this episode, and then you have to share it, because there's somebody here that is a hustler, that is a grinder, that might need to hear a little bit more about the journey that my brother Karl has dropped for them. So don't be stingy with this episode. Make sure you share it out. Now, as we close out, my brother, Dear Black Man, go ahead and take it away.
Dear Black Man, you are the king who sits on the throne of power and rules wisely and justly. And in life, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Live that life to the fullest forever. Peace.